Gavin Lee is now joining us from on ground in Paris. Gavin, is this one of the biggest crises that President Emmanuel Macron has faced?
Certainly in the top three, but this is a man who's faced a series of crises and national protests. When you think back to the Gilets jaunes, the feeling of being left out of society by many working class people in the midst of Emmanuel Macron's challenge to bring the nation up to speed in a green-driven economy and make things a little more expensive for a long-term, better, greener future, which people said we are being left out of society. We've seen, more than a year of protests after that, and then saw big COVID pandemic protests against President Macron as well. And we are in a situation now where across the political divide, they say the riots now are as bad, haven't lasted as long, but the first few days are as bad as they were almost 20 years ago, the 2005 riots. Now, they lasted for more than 3 months, and at that time, under the government of Jacques Chirac, we had 3 months of emergency law. That means the government has the powers to impose curfews across the country. At the moment, that's up to the individual mayors to do of each region. You also have areas where they can automatically, police use powers to disperse crowds, stop people gathering in big numbers, a kind of martial law where the government and the president has ultimate control. Now, the right of the political spectrum, the likes of Marine Le Pen, say the National Rally Party, saying that absolutely bring in this emergency law now. This is not about calm, because that's the message that all government ministers are saying, including Emmanuel Macron. There needs to be calm. In fact, he's appealing for mums and dads to say, keep your children at home, because the age of many of the people arrested in the first 3 days, more than 1,000 people, average age 17, youngest age 13 years old. The right of the party, and the police unions today too, in a letter, a very angry letter from the two main police unions saying it's not going to take calm. This takes an emergency law kicking in again. So far, that's being resisted.
Because you just mentioned about the age, the average age of the youth who are out there on the streets rioting, clashing with the police, the violence that has spread across France. Anything else that you can tell us about the demographic of this crowd which is taken to the streets every day for the past 3-4 days after nightfall? Are they the immigrant community? Who are they?
Who are largely here in Nanterre and across Paris. In the first 2 nights, we saw those living in the suburbs. So we're talking about mainly immigrants, ethnic minorities, young people who came from, their families descended from the likes of Algeria, Morocco, North Africa, young Muslim families that started to settle here. A lot of these are second generation of French immigrants who are living here that are not immigrants anymore, they are French, but they're descending from immigrant families. They've been joined by all sorts of people, whether it's across the black diaspora as well, feeling that they have also been forgotten. I've spoken to people here in Nanterre saying that it could have been their brother. This is so common. There have been 13 deaths like this in the past year in France. There have been special powers given to the police after an incident in 2017 where a police officer was shot and heavily injured after pulling to a home. So the police were given powers to shoot if people resist arrest or don't obey orders, which happened with this traffic stop. You have Kylian Mbappé, one of the most famous footballers in the world, best players who came from the suburbs close to here, from the banlieue, who's put out a video message saying this has absolutely got to stop. His heart is aching, but it's not going to go forward. And as I mentioned to you 2 moments ago, it started like that, but now what we're seeing is this general rioting, people grabbing what they can get from Nike stores, high-end Louis Vuitton stores in Paris. We've seen this in Marseille. We've seen motorbikes, cars stolen from garages in Lyon as well. So this is not just about that, and that's the concern of those on the right, saying this is now a law and order question. Briefly mention the left too. The left wing are saying Emmanuel Macron, his government, previous Conservatives, have forgotten the people here. This was bound to happen, they say.